Good. Have some good questions. Should I? Thomas says, should I change therapist or stay with the one I have? I like to. A lot of you know that too, because I've talked about it on office hours. But I'm a big hiker and backpacker, and when I'm out there in group hikes, I often will say, this is my psychiatrist's office. Just being outside and talking with people, just talking about hiking and whatever about stuff, not necessarily therapy type talking on these hikes, but just being outside with the fresh air has just been amazing. So I don't necessarily say that you could maybe replace it with hiking, but you may be able to, if you can get outside more. It really has been helpful to, I call it mental health. I don't have mental issues, but just the overall, it's really good.
So
lower anxiety, all sorts of stuff.
I'm the complete opposite of that. So I've been indoors, but outside in Hyrule playing Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. So if you want to go off and do that without, sleeping in cold and stuff like that, Breath of the Wild is probably the way you want to do it right now. Buy yourself a Switch, get Breath of the Wild.
All right. Oh, Anza Borrego. Oh, the Ron Sack. Yeah, Ron. I used to work with Ron. Anza Borrego on Friday. Yeah. So Anza Borrego is our desert in San Diego County, and it is, you really shouldn't hike out there during many months out of the year because it's so hot out there. It gets up to 120 degrees. But right now it's beautiful weather. I think it's even cooler out there than it is in the city right now because it's actually pretty hot.
So in Breath of the Wild, there is a desert that you could go out in, and you can hike and explore in that desert in your house.
Are there those weird sandworms in the desert? Like the things like the...
You mean like from what's that movie, Tremors?
Or Dune, right?
There is some pretty gnarly stuff out there. I have to bring cholla pliers with me. So cholla is a cactus that if you brush up against it, it's got these barbs, and so it hooks into your skin, and it can be quite painful. And so anyways, yeah, stay away from the jumper. They call them jumping cholla. I don't know that they quite jump, but yeah, they get all over you when hiking out in the desert. All right, we should get started. Enough about hiking in our desert here.
Yeah. Richie, stop talking about hiking.
Yeah. Gosh darn it. I am so in love with hiking in Breath of the Wild.
Enough about your hiking boots. All right.
Well, I did find the hiking pants, so the climbing pants, and your climbing speed goes way up after that.
Yeah, you're going to have a good
Still missing the top, the climbing top, which is the set bonus, and which really will make my climbing speed go crazy.
Yeah. You should get the elevator. That'll help as well. Save you a lot of time.
Could be. We do have Epona, the horse, so that works out well.
I'm happy for you. Did you get to give it a name, or does it have like just a regular in-game name?
So you can go get horses in the game, and they each have different levels and things like that, and you can get those. But my daughter really wanted Epona, the Link's horse from Ocarina of Time. Right. So you can buy one of these amiibos, scan it in, and it will give you Epona. So you cannot name Epona. There's no way. Epona is Epona. So
because I remember in Skyrim there was like no real horse difference. You got that like one weird like death horse.
Yeah.
Red eyes, but like any other horse you got was just like boring regular horse. There was
I did get a blue horse. So I found a blue horse and I named it Azure.
Okay.
I hate you.
Don't tell me I'm not cloud agnostic, right? So the next horse I find is going to be named Lambda.
That's not a lamb. That's a horse. All right. So Thomas is asking a very good question about migrating, about doing a P to V, the old physical to virtual. I'm on 5-year-old hardware and virtualizing the server. Should I add more resources, or would the age of the physical boxes be offset by the newer hardware of the VM host? I don't know. If you guys were looking to figure out if your virtualized hardware were adequate, what would you look at?
Are you asking us, Richie and me?
Yeah, I'm asking you.
Well, the companies I work for, we have a performance test team that can run synthetic production loads and see if we have adequate hardware. So that's always where we would start to answer that question. Is we have a load testing tools that can tell us, if we're going to do okay or not.
All right. Well, pretend that someone doesn't work for $1 billion a year chip Where might
I
you
don't know.
start looking at stuff? All right. Well,
What about
Tom,
you?
that's a good question. So where I would start, I mean, you know, you are already kind of doing your own form of load testing here. If you just restore whatever production databases you have on there, and you do kind of regular maintenance work, like, you know, you run checkdb, you do some full backups, or, you know, God forbid you run an index rebuild. Those are all pretty good ways to test and see if the hardware is enough of an improvement, because hopefully you've been doing that stuff on your old server too, and you can figure out if those basic tasks finish in about either the same or hopefully faster than they do on the old hardware. If you're breaking about even, chances are your queries will break about even too.
It sounds about right.
As always, measure your wait stats. You know, if you have a way to run any kind of, you know, fake workload on there, go ahead and do that. You know, SQL query stress is a pretty good tool for just, you know, running a whole bunch of queries over and over again. OStress is another good tool, part of the RML utilities thing that Microsoft publishes. Those are two pretty good ways to just spin up some, you know, fake workloads on a new server. That's how I usually do it. I actually have, geez, do I have that blog post? I think I do. So back when we wrote white papers for Google.
You have all the blog posts. What are you talking about?
I know.
Do I have a blog post? Well, yeah, sir, you have all of them.
Thanks, Brent.
Great post, Brent.
Why didn't that work? Yeah.
The great
Oh, it's Bing.
Brent, thanks, Brent thing while he's looking. That used to drive me a little bit crazy on my blog post, but I'm getting better accepting that everyone thinks that it's always Brent writing the blog post. I only do like 4 per year, so I don't have to get upset that often.
It's a good way to avoid getting upset. Blogging in general is just an upsetting process. So a while back when we were writing white papers about how to test about, you know, doing different stuff in the cloud. Tara did stuff on like AGs and DR, and I did stuff on performance tuning. And I wrote a blog post about how to use OStress and agent jobs to run all different stored procedures in different ways. So if you want to go take a look at that, I stuck it in the chat comments. So you can go and look, and you can figure out how to run all sorts of crazy stuff on your server and give that hardware a good kick in the nuts.
What was that, Richie? Is that a cat? It went by so fast.
Yeah, it jumped from here. It snuck underneath, like under the camera, and then it started jiggling the whole, my monitor, and I'm like, get out.
Yeah.
All right. Enough about Richie's cats and hiking. Boring. Boring.
More Zelda talk.
Next thing I know, you'll be taking pictures of your food. Nightmares.
No,
so
that's Brent, which he's doing right now.
That's true. He is currently taking pictures of his fancy breakfast.
Rosé all day.
Sri is asking a very good question for Tara. Since we talked about network speed, what's the expected good bandwidth between 2 data centers in different cities when using always-on availability groups?
All right. So the answer is more dependent upon if you're going to go synchronous or asynchronous. If you're using an asynchronous replica, and this also pertains to database mirroring, same basic thing. So it's synchronous versus asynchronous. If a data center is in another city, it's not within, you know, a couple miles from the data center, I do not recommend using synchronous replica or mirroring because of even 15 milliseconds network latency can be noticeable enough it can degrade performance enough for users to notice. And because I've accidentally left a database mirroring session in synchronous mode after a failover where you used async and you failover, and then you switch to sync and then do the failover so you don't have any data loss. And I forgot to switch it back to async after the failover. And it took a few days to realize what was going on. It's like, I don't know why it's slower there. And finally, because I don't know that we had great wait stats on that stuff back in that version. It's been quite a few years. But to answer your question, if you were to go with synchronous replica across 2 cities, you better have a very small load. If you have a busy system, you're not going to be able to do it. So I generally recommend synchronous at the same data center, next rack over, same subnet, everything, and then asynchronous to another city, so a disaster recovery site. As far as answering the question, what network speed? Well, if it's asynchronous, what matters is that you don't get too much latency, so monitoring latency, but generally speaking, 15 milliseconds would be my target or better.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. 15 to 20 is a pretty good target for latency from one site to another. One tool that you can use that's absolutely free to test that sort of thing. You know, we always tell folks about using Crystal Disk Mark to test their disks, but one good way to test your network is a free tool called iPerf. iPerf.exe, and iPerf it lets you set up like just basically like a ping flooding server on one end and then a client on the other end, and you can just send data back and forth, and it'll give you the network speed and how much data sent across and how much loss there was. So it's a little bit more involved than just like a ping or like, you know, a trace route or something, but because it does send data across, but it's a very good way to measure network speeds. I've used that a couple of times in kicking around hardware for clients. So
Never heard of it.
I think cool. I think even David Klee might even have a blog post where he shows you how to use it. So go out there and try to find that. I'm not.
I did have a recent client that was using synchronous to another city, and it was about 500 miles, and the wait stats showed that they weren't having an issue, but they were going to be growing and growing and growing. So I was like, well, you might not have an issue now, but you may in the future. So I did give them some HADR talk.
So all I heard from that question was, what is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow?
Okay. All right. Fantastic.
Nerd alert. All right. Michael had an interesting question about a sort of...
Uh-oh. Did he go potato again?
Potato! Oh,
Did I go potato?
Kind of back.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
All right. Can you tell us...
Nope, never mind. Potato again. Okay, I'll ask the question. Could you tell us everything you know about temporal tables? And since Erik is potato right now, we can't tell you anything. I don't know that Richie or I could answer this question.
He's back. Are you back? Nope.
Nope.
Frozen potato.
All right. Brandon asked if Erik comes back, we'll have him answer that question. Brandon asked what future training videos are coming down the line. I don't know that answer. I don't know that there's necessarily anything planned. I think you're back, Erik, because I can hear all the typing.
Am I? Am I normal?
Sort of.
Amazing.
Nope.
Someone on his cable tree is downloading, taking all the bandwidth. Watch.
Yeah, this is something.
All right. D asks, devs have an alerting agent job, SQL 2008 R2, getting an OA create error, SQL, I don't know. I would ask that question over on Stack Exchange. Stack Exchange, I'll just Google the address. Let's see. Does iPerf need a maintenance window? Question asked by James. Erik would better be able to answer that. I wouldn't think so, because it would just be like two servers doing a lot of chatting with each other, and that's what availability groups and database mirroring is going to do anyway. All right. I should have read these questions ahead of time.
Nah, it's all right. We're all learning together. We're together. At last, we're all together, except Erik, which we don't count him in as together.
All right, James asked a question, a security question. If you have to switch all your SQL Service logins to an AD account, and he has to, how would you check that doesn't wreck any of your applications? Well, you need to do this in a test environment, making sure that, are you to SQL Service login? So all that really needs to happen is that SQL Server, do you make sure that SQL Server can come online and all the features that you're using there work? If you're changing the agent job, make sure that the jobs are still running. But as far as your applications, no, but start in a test environment so that the production maintenance window, you don't have any issues during that.
One of the cool things I've been playing with this week was creating a cluster in RDS and doing that all using script and scripting all the logins and scripting all this stuff and scripting all the instances. And that has been super cool, being able to bring up a database and tear it down, bringing up the cluster and then adding all these instances to it, and then going and start removing the pieces from the cluster. Like, what if you remove the writer or if what do you remove one of the readers and you just start swapping things in and out? Oh man, that crap is powerful, and this is all from script, and you could just do it all right from script. There's no need to go to the window or the console or anything. It's just boop, do it, and then come in and out. Scary as hell if you're talking about production instances, but yeah. Man, I was having a blast yesterday trying to figure all that crap out.
Oh, see, well, are you being sarcastic with blast?
No. It was
enjoying it. Okay.
Fun.
Right.
You know, trying to figure out what the correct syntax is in a script, that was rough. But once got everything working and I was able to start throwing instances out there, it's just a matter of, hey, I want to remove this, and it's gone, or hey, I want to go ahead and add another one, and it was just there, and it was like, oh, it's like now I can all of a sudden you can start checking in all of your VPN, your VPCs, all your networking stuff, all your database stuff, and that's all a script that goes into GitHub. And if you ever need to redeploy to a test environment, it's just here. Guys, run this script, and there it goes, off and it runs, and it's a completely different environment. Oh man, I probably need to write a post about that. That was a lot of fun.
Nestor's asking if the script that you wrote was PowerShell, which I actually teased him earlier in our company chat room. I knew the answer.
No, so what I was doing is I was using CloudFormation, which is AWS's kind of a way to do JSON or YAML to generate pieces of cloud. So pretty much anything that you want to create in AWS, you can use CloudFormation and just with the script to do that. And I was using the serverless project as a container for that because I understand that, and it's easy for me to put environment variables everywhere and not hard coding usernames and passwords and stuff like that into it. I'm sure you could do it using CloudFormation. I just haven't bothered to do it. And the rest of the app that I was working with is in serverless, and it's just a matter of a one-line command line. It goes off and it just does everything that you need it to do.
Oh, all in one line?
All in one line.
I guess that's how it was when I was having to write the Google the white paper for creating a VM and set up an availability group there. There was a lot in one line for sure, but yeah, figuring out the syntax was problematic. To me, it actually felt like PowerShell.
Yeah, and it's kind of poorly documented because there was one issue I ran into where I was like declaring the password and user in the instance, and I was also declaring it in the cluster, and then it gave me this bogus, error just saying, hey, you want to declare that in the cluster, and it didn't tell me to remove it from the instance, and so it took a little digging and me to figure out. I was like, oh, you only want it in a cluster, you don't want it in the instance. So as soon as I had to remove a whole bunch of things, and then things started working, and it was like, nah, come on, you guys can write error messages a little better than this. Yeah, it's like, please remove this from the instance because you've declared it in the cluster. But no, and it was just really bogus, crazy, you really didn't know what was going on with that error. I should probably blog that error too. I screenshotted that one. I said, this is a good one. This is crazy.
All right. D asks, what are your thoughts on having OLE automation enabled? It's a security concern. So I don't know if you have any kind of security audits, but that's one of the items that they want you to have disabled. It's by default disabled. Same thing as XP Command Shell. There's security risk. Whether or not you need it may be another story. So you can sometimes get around security audits by disabling and enabling as needed. But I don't ever enable it on the servers I've supported. If you need it, then you need it. But what are you doing that you need that type of thing? Why do you need that enabled on SQL Server? Why not do that type of tasks somewhere else? All right, Barry asks, we are looking at implementing managed service accounts. One issue I'm having while testing is I can't get it to use a proxy account. I was trying to use the proxy to run a maintenance backup plan to a network share, but it never works until I add the agent account to the share. Any ideas? I've never used proxy accounts, so I can't help with that. I've used managed service accounts. I think pretty sure they were managed service accounts. I'm not coming from a Windows sysadmin background, so the companies I've worked for have had teams that took care of that. I just use the Windows account. All right, James asks, is it worth encrypting pre-2016 servers, or should I upgrade to 2016 and then encrypt? I don't know that there's any benefit to pre-encrypting, except maybe your maintenance window will be faster because it doesn't have to encrypt. I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of see this as more of a business requirement. It's kind of outside the technical realm. Regardless of pre-2016 or 2016, you have the requirement to encrypt, then you should encrypt at the version that you're in, and then worry about upgrading to a later. They're not, hey, this is better versus another. You have a business requirement. Any version pretty much right now of SQL Server that's supported is going to be able to handle the encryption. Yeah. If you need to do it, then do it. of course, those requirements need to be prioritized by your management. And hey, what's more important, us upgrading or us going and doing the encryption? And meanwhile, you got to let them know there's no technical difference between the two. There's no a benefit versus one versus another. I would definitely do it in a test environment first, get more familiarized with the encryption and the certificates, and it is kind of gets a little wonky there because it's very different. But yeah, that's a business thing, and it doesn't really depend on any technical things that the SQL Server has.
Is my audio any better?
No,
yes, you're here.
So far, so good.
It's the voice in my head. Can you hear that?
Yes, it's God.
God, is that you?
Thomas says, I see John Grisham in a dictionary. Who are some of the authors behind you, Tara? Well, the funny thing is, this is not my office. This is at my parents' house. I've moved into a new house, and this is brand new construction. We have no internet. Been there for 2 weeks tomorrow. Still no internet. So in order to, I've been working at the library. I've been working at Starbucks, and I'm so annoyed with the public at this point, and I wanted to attend office hours. I went over to my mom's house, which isn't too far away. So this is my mom's a big John Grisham fan. I definitely have read John Grisham. I think also, what's that? Yeah, Dean Koontz. Dean Koontz is also another one that's in the background. So you probably can see, I can't try zoomed out too much, but there's childhood pictures on the wall back there. Probably some embarrassing ones, so don't zoom in.
So I did read Murder on the Orient Express about a month ago when I was in jury duty, sitting there waiting for the entire day. And we saw the movie adaptation that Brent did last night, and wasn't bad. I was expecting, but no, it wasn't bad. They have the differences, but I was like, okay, I could live with those differences. The guy who played Aaron Burr in Hamilton was in the movie, and I'm like, Aaron Burr did it. He did it the entire. I was screaming it because there was only 4 people in the theater. It's like Aaron Burr did it.
So what questions did you want me to get on?
Oh, yes, the
temp table.
Temporal table. So I can answer temp tables,
okay.
But temporal tables, yeah. Can you tell us everything you know about temporal tables? And our answer is, well, I know nothing. So moving on.
I mean, I like them better than like change tracking and change data capture, but I haven't used them a ton. I had a couple blog posts about them. There are some blog posts out there in the world about them. They're probably more informative than anything I'm going to tell you here in the next 5 minutes. But yeah, I do like them, and I like the idea of them. I do think it's a much better way than having devs try to roll their own sort of system of keeping track of data changes over time. It really does depend on what your use case for them is going to be, though.
Okay, so think of me as a SQL Server noob for the new stuff. Tell me about temporal tables and what they could do, please.
Why do you always ask the noob questions? So temporal tables are a way. I've been
using Postgres, man. Come on now.
Okay. So temporal tables are like having a shadow copy of your table. So you have like your main copy of your table, and then you have this shadow copy of your table that tracks all of the changes to data made in the base table. So you can actually query backwards in time, and you can look at how your data has changed over time, and you can actually, like, if you needed to, you could go back and you could actually pull data out and make and fix data with what's in there. So I don't know if it's just like a really sneaky way for Microsoft to not have to put object level restore back into the product, but I think but temporal table is a really cool way to. It's almost like Oracle Flashback, where you can I was like, oh no, we need the table as of now. Okay, let's just query how it used to be. So it's actually it's very neat for that stuff.
Oh,
so if you were to use it for auditing data changes, do you just query that table, or then do you move it to an audited an auditing table, historical tables?
No, you just query the table, and you can see there are some keywords with the dates that you want to look at, and you can do like as of or like dates between and stuff like that, so you can see how data looked on a certain date between certain dates, and you can just see how particular data has changed over time.
So, and then if I delete data, that will be there as well?
Yes.
Or not be there?
Yes. Well, deleted data it'll show that it's deleted in the.
To show that, yeah.
And then you could purge the data so it's not massive if you wanted to.
Yeah, I believe you can set retention policies on it, so you can decide kind of how much data you want to keep in there.
And what version does this start on?
2016.
Okay, so I had a feeling it was newer. I had a recent client who's doing auditing via triggers, and their design was not going to, and the way that they implemented what was bad for scaling reasons. I'm kind of okay with if you just quickly dump the data into another table as is, the before and after, but they were doing some odd things. They weren't on 2016, but maybe that's something I can include in the future to say when you get to 2016, look into this instead.
If you ever get to 2016.
Yes, if you ever. Yeah, that's the question.
You lazy people.
We're almost in 2018. Come on now. I mean, seriously.
SQL Server 2018 is on the way. Here you are. And like this week, my clients are running. I'm looking at 2 servers, and the clients are running 2008 and 2008 R2. And it's like, why?
Yep.
Like they are 7 and 10 years old at this point. I'm like, why can't anyone just upgrade?
Yeah.
What is the holdup? What is the issue? Which I'm sure is a question that Microsoft asks as well.
Yes.
Why can't you?
Yes. All right. Adam asks, what are the concerns gotchas to watch for when enabling trace flag 834, which is the large page allocations and buffer pool? I don't know. I've never implemented that trace flag. How about you, Eric?
I mean, I've just never seen it make a difference. It's like one of those like old DBA fables where it's just like, oh, all we need is the large pages and everything will be cool. But I've just never seen it actually fix a problem, and I've never seen it even like kind of improve a problem in a way where it was just like, okay, we made it past this benchmark, so now we can really focus on the stuff that'll fix problems. I mean, I'm sure that someone wrote a really interesting blog post about how cool it is for like one particular thing, but like off in the real world, I've never seen it do much of anything good.
I like the trace flags that I go with are the ones that are recommended by like SQL Server experts, the known people in the community. They're saying these trace flags you should just go ahead and enable everywhere, and then specific issues that I'm encountering. Maybe I need a database mirroring or replication trace flag so that they can ignore each other and not have too much latency. So I don't just go ahead and implement trace flags just because.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if I was going to voice a concern about it, my concern would be like, have you tested it in a way that you've seen it improve upon a problem? Like, did you enable it in a development environment, and do you are you sure that like you have a problem that's going to solve? You've watched it solve a problem somewhere else, and now we're going to roll it out in production. Like that's my concern, is that you're just like you're button smashing, and you're not actually fixing a problem.
All right. Rob has a maintenance job that's got an error, and it's tempdb ran out of space. Tempdb, because the primary file group is full. Any reason for concern? Well, you may need more tempdb space in order for that job to finish. And maybe it's not just that job. Maybe it's the other load that's occurring plus the job running at the same time. So, your queries need space in tempdb to do work. Maybe you're using temporary tables, maybe it's a sort, maybe you're spelling to disk, who knows what. There's lots of reasons why tempdb gets used, and tempdb gets used a lot on SQL Server. Even if you're not even doing temporary tables, it still is being used. And if you got that error, is this job important? Does it need to be able to complete successfully? And if it does, and it's continuing to fail, look at the query. Is there anything weird about the query that maybe you can make it more efficient so it uses less tempdb space, or maybe you just need to add more storage so that tempdb can grow and you don't have that error. I've said this several times in office hours, but I literally have supported a server that had 500 gigabyte tempdb data file sizes. There were 8 files, but they totaled 500 gigabytes. And I've got some clients who are like, oh my God, I've got 8 to 20 gigabyte tempdb. It's like, oh, that's nothing. I mean, what that cost you a quarter. So I don't worry about the tempdb space. I want the queries and jobs to complete successfully. I will go back and look at the queries, though, that may be causing it to grow, past some number. There are ways to make better use of tempdb.
Yeah, I think I would want to look at what the job running is. I know that dbcc checkdb has the tendency to use a whole heck of a lot of tempdb space, and if you're rebuilding indexes with sort and tempdb on,
right,
you can be using an awful lot of tempdb. And if in all of the sorting that goes on for like statistics updates, so if you're doing statistics updates on rather large tables with a full scan, those sorts can actually go off to tempdb, and I've seen those sorts fill tempdb up on even on servers that are with tempdb the size of what Tara's talking about with the 500 gigs allotted to it. So all the stuff she said, plus, kind of take a look at what the jobs you're doing are. As always, we will not recommend that you just go and keep rebuilding indexes blindly and just hope that they fix something. Make sure that the indexes that you're rebuilding actually need the rebuild to happen, and that you're fixing more than you're hurting by doing it.
All right, one last question from James. He's got a brand new job. They do have a SQL Server 2005 server. It's not his fault. Wants to make it clear. So it's a new job. He's inherited it. I don't want to say how old he was in 2005. Are there any gotchas I need to watch out for when I upgrade? I mean, what are you upgrading to? I don't think you can even go from 2005 to 2016.
You need to hop in the middle.
You need a hop. So you're going to need a 2012 box. And I wouldn't recommend just stopping at 2012. We're in year 2017, so I'd probably go for 2016 or 2017. I don't care which one between the two, really, unless you're going for some feature. But you're going to need to do a hop, probably to 2012, and then over to the new version. Now, you can do that all in the same maintenance window because it's just going to be a backup and a restore and another backup and a restore, and you don't have to do full backups. You can do this through like log shipping and just keep sending it over to the newest server. As far as gotchas, I would recommend running the Upgrade Advisor tools to see if you've got any code. If you're using store procedures, it can analyze your code and let you know if you've got anything that may break in the newer version. But obviously, you're going to have to test this in a test environment. And companies I've worked for, we've done full regression tests. It can take 3 months of testing only for a SQL Server upgrade. And obviously, they try to get in application bugs and features as well during that time. But do a full test cycle. The Upgrade Advisor can be helpful for that. I'm pretty sure it still exists in newer versions.
Yeah, the other thing that I would just be aware of is the new cardinality estimator.
Yes.
So if you're moving up to 2014 or 2014 or beyond, the new CE can either really help queries or really hurt queries, or a strange mix of the two. So before you go and set that database into the new compatibility mode, to the latest compatibility mode, make sure that you do some testing on how your queries react to it.
Right, or just roll it back to the old compatibility mode till you have time to test.
Yeah, whatever, Richie. Thanks for being thoughtful.
I'll stop, dude. All my thoughts right now are in The Last Jedi, so...
Okay.
Well, you're in a very Jedi state of mind then, being that thoughtful about things. Rolling stuff backwards and forwards and testing. Look at you. I bet you would test that, wouldn't you?
I absolutely would.
One last comment from Thomas, just because it's based upon James's question. He says, DBA tools for migration for the win. DBA tools is a PowerShell scripts. We highly recommend checking out the website for it and seeing if there's any scripts that can help you do your job. They do have migration scripts. So yeah, that is helpful. But as a longtime DBA, I'm so used to my own backup restore and doing a differential and chaining together transaction logs. It's super easy. I don't even need a script. I have custom T-SQL scripts anyways for it that I wouldn't bother with PowerShell for that task because I've been around so long.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if I had to, transport a bunch of settings and users and all that other stuff over the PowerShell command list, it makes sense. But just for moving the actual data over, I'm going to want something that reduces the cutover time, not something that is just part of the cutover time. Yeah. Like if it's just doing a straight backup and restore for a smaller database, not a big deal. As soon as you start getting up into 50, 100, 200 plus gig databases, you're really going to want to do mirroring or log shipping or something else that gives you the ability to do a faster cut over to the new server.
Yeah, and if you're not familiar with PowerShell, then I wouldn't start with a migration. Starting to get familiar with it.
Yeah,
or at least
not a good starting
first.
Yeah, definitely in a test environment first for it. Troubleshooting those errors are horrible.
Yeah. All right, I think we have reached about the limit of our time here. We went a little bit over because we talked about Zelda too much.
Yeah.
I hope you'll forgive us. We tried to make it up for you on the back end. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I apologize about my potato-y audio and video. I'm going to call Time Warner and yell at them again. Tara and Richie, I don't know. Do you want to say anything?
Nope. Bye.
No?
Go
All right,
climb
bye.
something.
Okay. Bye.